Today, I want to share with you my experience with 5 different cordless leaf blowers. Not only my experience, but I had my neighbors give each of them a try and give me their opinions. I'm hoping that this shootout provides you with the best information possible to help you with your buying decision. The leaf blower category actually includes a very wide range of candidates. We are looking at the 18-volt cordless tools from DeWalt, Milwaukee, Ryobi, Ridgid, and Makita. What we're not including are professional tools that are gas-powered. There really is no question that gas-powered backpack leaf blowers are the choice for landscapers that service several houses a day in and day out. We also didn't include the new higher voltage landscaping tools that have recently emerged. The 5 tools we chose are geared towards the homeowner. And many of you might already own a tool or two that use the same battery system, like a drill, saw, or other cordless tools. These 18-volt leaf blowers will service the average 7,500 square foot suburban property and will likely get used once per week when it's time to cut the grass and trim the landscaping. That said, these are powerful blowers that are easy to handle and rival, if not exceed, what a corded blower can do. All 5 blowers surprised me how well they worked and made the job of tidying up the yard so much easier. Still, there are clear differences between each of them. I broke up this evaluation into 2 categories. The subjective testing, where my neighbors and myself used each blower and gave our opinions, and the less subjective evaluation that included weight, measured power, runtime, sound, and cost. Let's start there. I weighed each blower using a postal scale to the nearest ounce as I unboxed each of them. I should mention all of the blowers came in similar sized boxes, packed nearly the same. You just need to assemble the nozzle to the blower, add a battery, and you're ready to go. There was a lot of talk when we were using the blowers about which one felt better balanced and which one felt heaviest. But the scale doesn't lie. Actually, there is only 14 ounces separating the lightest, the Makita, and the heaviest, the Ryobi. But actual weight and perceived weight is totally different, which I'll get into in a bit. Every one of these blowers touts some sort of power rating on the side of the box. Cubic feet per minute, miles per hour, and the like. It can all be a bit confusing and difficult to compare. I use an anemometer to test the power of each of them. An anemometer is a device that's used by the heating and ventilation trades to measure speed and pressure. The air pressure passes through this little fan, and the device measures the speed of the fan. More wind, more speed. As simple as that. The Makita and the Milwaukee came out on top. The Ridgid and the DeWalt were bringing up the rear. Again, these results conflicted a bit with our real-world testing. All of these leaf blowers are much quieter than their gas-powered counterparts. To quantify how loud they are, I used a sound meter to compare them. I actually have no idea how accurate my meter is, but the number it generates makes for a fair comparison. The Milwaukee was the loudest, closely followed by the DeWalt. The Ryobi was really the only blower that doesn't warrant the use of hearing protection. It was a full 15 dB quieter, registering just 82 decibels. And that's a big difference. I should also note that all of the blowers are loudest at the intake end of the machine, which is the closest part of the machine to your ear. To test runtime, I simply ran each of them full blast until they quit. To keep the test fair, I used the same 5 amp hour Makita battery on each of them. By the way, if you missed my video on battery adapters, which allow you to use one manufacturer's batteries on another manufacturer's tool, I'll put the link at the end of this video. After figuring out how to activate some of them without a finger on the trigger, I was able to start the runtime test. During the test, I took some additional anemometer and sound readings. Anyway, here are the results of the runtime test. Turns out runtime is highly correlated with power. the Makita took only 10 minutes to expire, while that old brush-styled motor of the Ridgid lasted almost twice as long at 19 minutes and 45 seconds. All of them got the battery nice and hot during the test. These guys are really sucking power. Okay, let's talk about cost of these machines. First, let me say I purchased all of these blowers at Home Depot with my own money. There was no sponsorship here. Cost of these blowers averages $140 for tool only, meaning you need to bring your own batteries to the party. The notable bargain blower is the Ridgid at $80. The Milwaukee was on the other end of the spectrum at $179. All of these blowers are basically the same design. They pull air in from the back and use a single inline fan within the tube to blow it out the front. All of them use 18-volt lithium-ion batteries to power the brushless motor and drive the fan, with the exception of Ridgid, which is a brushed motor. All have top-mounted handle in one of two configurations: the L design, like the Ryobi and the Ridgid, and the closed C handle design, like the Makita, the DeWalt, and the Milwaukee. Both designs actually work effectively. All have variable speed triggers, which allow you to modulate the fan speed, and hence the amount of power that it blows. The DeWalt had a couple of unique features. If you take a look at the front of the blower nozzle, it has what they call a concentrator cone that snaps on, which supposedly concentrates the airstream. We tried it with and without when blowing leaves, but the differences were really negligible. Up on the trigger handle, they added a variable throttle control, which allows you to hold the variable speed trigger in any position. This is in contrast to a simple full-speed lock button like the Milwaukee uses. As I mentioned, Ryobi was the quietest blower in the group, and it was apparent that they had made several design choices to make it quiet. The nozzle tube is double-walled and filled with foam. The intake of the blower is also lined with foam to absorb the noise. It was labeled the Whisper series on the side of the nozzle, just in case you missed the subtle design changes. The Ryobi has two speeds. You have the variable speed trigger, but there also is a turbo button on the top of the handle that dramatically increases the power. But none of us liked having to hold the button down to get this boost. To make matters worse, there was a noticeable delay when you hit the turbo button. The machine takes a couple of seconds to wind up to full power. We all agreed that the Ryobi had the worst controls of the bunch. Looking at the Milwaukee, it also has a 2-speed button on the top of the trigger handle. The switch is marked with a rabbit and a turtle for fast or slow. The trigger gives you variable control in each mode. Once you get used to the Milwaukee for a while, you'll never use the turtle button again. The Milwaukee touts on the packaging full power in less than 1 second, and it lived up to those expectations, providing the best throttle response of the bunch. When you ask for full power, you get it instantly. The motor has a high-pitched squeal that makes it a bit annoying. It was a constant reminder that I should be using some sort of hearing protection. The Ridgid was the smallest blower in the group. It has a short, abbreviated nozzle that is welcome in some situations, like when you're using it to blow off your car after washing it. It's also perfect for indoor situations such as blowing off a table saw or cleaning the shop floor. But the older brushed motor design left it lacking for outdoor work. It simply does not have the same power as the rest of the field with newer brushless motor designs. The Makita looks like the least fancy of the group. It seems to have an unassuming design, but it turned out to be a star pupil. Like the DeWalt, the Makita has a throttle control lock that lets you set it anywhere you want. This feature turned out to be quite useful. The Makita came with a sticker on the top of the body that said 60 dB, but that rating is for 50 feet away, so it has nothing to do with the operator. I recruited 2 of my neighbors, Cliff and Gary, to try out each of the blowers. I didn't share any of my opinions with them or the bench testing results. It was just seat-of-the-pants testing. And I didn't allow them to talk to each other until they had supplied me with their own winners and losers. Cliff brought a unique perspective because he has a corded leaf blower that he uses frequently. So he could size up how each of the cordless models stacked up against his corded blower. His first comment was how much freedom any of these cordless blowers give you over having to tug on a cord or free it from a yard obstacle. Trying them separately, and like a cowboy with a gun in each hand, he compared them as I took notes on his thoughts. In the end, he put the Makita on top of the totem pole. He said it felt lighter and well balanced. Power was the top of the bunch, and he said it had good throttle response. His second place choice was the DeWalt, followed by the Milwaukee. He gave high marks to the Milwaukee for throttle response, but said it just didn't feel as powerful as the DeWalt or the Makita. Ryobi was fourth on the list, and the Ridgid came in last place. The next day, I supplied the blowers to my friend Gary. Again, nothing was discussed with Gary about prior evaluations. It was a clean slate. He tried each of them working on his own backyard. But once he tried the Milwaukee, it was over. He loved the instantaneous throttle response. He said the power was raw and it was like a NASCAR compared to the others. The Ridgid also captured Gary's attention. He liked the small size and the agility it provided. He said it's not as powerful on the top as the Milwaukee, but the long throw of the trigger gave you excellent control. And the noise from the Ridgid was actually pretty pleasant. He tried the Ridgid to blow out his RV and loved it, commenting how nice it would be to have when they camped at the beach for removing sand that got tracked in, or for blowing off pine needles when they visited the mountains. After much back and forth, he ranked the Milwaukee first, Ridgid second, and the Makita an honorable mention. The DeWalt and the Ryobi were dismissed and didn't even make the podium for him. After Gary provided his rankings, I told him how much the price of each blower was. Once he heard the Milwaukee was twice as much as the Ridgid, he said he would switch his rankings, and he would purchase the Ridgid over the Milwaukee if he could only have one of them. Now it's my turn to provide my thoughts and opinions. I was actually most excited about the Ryobi when the blowers first arrived. It was so much quieter than the others, and initially that was really important to me. But the Ryobi turned out to be the bottom of the ranking. Fourth place and third place were tied between the DeWalt and the Ridgid. The DeWalt wasn't bad. It had some nice features like an infinite throttle lock, but the power was mediocre and there just wasn't much to get excited about. The Ridgid is marketed correctly. As it says in bold letters on the side, it's a job site blower. It's not a leaf blower. It lacked the power I wanted for outdoor work, although the $80 price point is very appealing. Second place for me is the Milwaukee. I love the throttle response and it feels very powerful. But I hate the high-pitched whine that would force me to wear earmuffs. The winner is the Makita for me. Kind of the Goldilocks of the bunch. It handles well, it's got good power, and it's not too loud. And it's the middle of the bunch in pricing. I hope you found this shootout helpful. I would really appreciate if you could hit that thumbs up button for this video. And I also want to make one more plug for my battery adapter video. These adapters made this video possible. So here's a link to that video. And I also want to thank and apologize to my family and neighbors who had to put up with days of leaf blower noise during our testing. All for the greater good, I say. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I would appreciate you subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.